everybody. Welcome back to Captain Chris Cooks. So today we're going to do something special. We're going to make a spicy meatloaf. In this particular case, I'm going to show you all the ingredients so you can either write them down or just stop the video and take a few notes. It's very simple and straightforward. Let's take a look at the ingredients. So you see I have about 2 pounds of ground beef, 2 pounds of hot sausage, an onion, breadcrumbs, sea salt, 2 eggs, black pepper, and a Heinz chili sauce. And basically that's all there really is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up that onion and get it a little translucent in a frying pan. I might put a dab of bacon grease in to fry it in. And once I do that, I'm going to mix up all the ingredients. And by the way, the ground beef that I'm using is pretty fatty, so it looks like we'll probably end up getting a little grease in the pan. And when we pull it out of the oven, we'll have to be very careful when we empty the grease out before we pull the meatloaf out. But we'll see how that turns out. One thing I like to do is when I do these cooking videos, I'll show you all of my mistakes, so maybe we can learn from them together. Okay, so we're going to cut this onion up. Now, I am not a professional cutter. My knifing skills are not that great. So, I just do what the average cook does, and that's just cut this up, peel it up, cut out the bad parts of the onion. And then I'll just make some small cuts in it. So, this is an odd looking onion, isn't it? Just kind of a break apart onion, which kind of makes it easier to cut. The way I cut them probably is not right, but that's okay. If it gets the job done, it gets the job done. So, you see, nothing is perfect in life. And there's the center of the onion I'm going to pull out. And then, of course, I'll that's all we really need to do before we put it in the frying pan. And we'll do the other half. So we're going to put the onions in the pan. Turn the heat down a little bit. I don't want it to be too hot. Getting all the little good stuff here. Okay. Now, as the onions are in the pan, starting to get a little translucent, I'm going to start off by putting in a little bit of seasoning. I love pepper, and so does my family. So we're going to add the pepper to the meatloaves, to the onions while we sweat them. So when they get translucent, they will have pepper already seasoned on them. And just a little bit, of course, sea salt. And then we'll stir it all up, and we'll see what it looks like when it becomes translucent. So now we'll add the onions to the meat. Now I fried these onions in a little bit of bacon grease. And you can use, of course, any kind of oil, lightweight oil. But I just like the flavor of bacon grease. And frying it in a cast iron frying pan is just the way to go. But if you don't have one, that's okay. So we're going to add the eggs. And that'll be all mixed in when we start hand mixing it. And I'm going to add maybe a cup of breadcrumbs to start. And then we'll see how thick that is. I want to be sure that the sausage is evenly dispersed with the ground beef. I don't want pockets of ground beef and pockets of sausage. So I recommend when you're doing this, do it more than you think it needs. That way it'll be evenly dispersed. Now, did you notice the sausage was hot sausage? This is the spicy meatloaf. So we'll be sure this is thoroughly mixed up. And I think I might need a little bit more breadcrumbs because we do want this to hold together. Now, the egg will help that a great deal, but I'm really counting on it being a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread it out, wash my hands, and put some more breadcrumbs in. So I'm going to add some more breadcrumbs just to thicken it up a little bit. That's probably about a cup and a half, 2 cups total. And then I'm going to just continue to fold it up and incorporate it thoroughly into the meat. And actually, this is kind of fun. Now, when I get done, because I'm also not only mixing ground beef, but I'm mixing pork, it's extremely important to thoroughly wash your hands when this is done. So I'm going to wash my hands probably 3 or 4 times while I'm doing this. And I will probably add more pepper because the only pepper that's in there right now is from the onions, the onion mixture. This looks pretty good now. See how that's holding up now? So it looks like we've got the right amount of breadcrumbs. This is what you want to do. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to flatten it out so I can get an even distribution of pepper. And then I'll wash my hands and come back and put some pepper in. So now I'm going to put some pepper in. I'm tempted to put some cayenne in, but I don't think many people like their food as hot as I do and spicy. I know my family does. This looks like a lot of pepper, but it's all incorporated. It's really not going to be it. And I'm going to add about half of this bottle of chili sauce. And the other half I'm reserving for the top of the meatloaf. Now, if you put your fingers under it, when you tap on it, it'll come right out. And that's about half the bottle right there. And we're going to now incorporate that into the meat. As you see, you really need a big mixing bowl. Because right now it looks like about 4.5 or 4.25 pounds of material right now that's going to go in and make more than one meatloaf. It'll probably make 2 nice sized meatloaves. One, of course, is for dinner tonight with mashed potatoes, and the other will be for sandwiches. Nothing is better than leftover meatloaf. Can you say that again? Okay, so this is pretty well incorporated now. Looks like it's pretty well standalone. It'll look good. And we're going to get out a bread loaf pan, and we'll probably line it with parchment paper, which will make it easier to lift the meatloaf out when we're done. So we found some aluminum foil back with lining paper, non-stick lining paper. So of course, our wife Patricia is folding up the paper to fit in the pan. And this will just make it a lot easier to remove when it's done. Okay, so now it's time to load the baking pans. Hopefully we'll get about equal amounts of meatloaf. And the advantage of lining them with this aluminum foil parchment paper is to catch the grease that's going to be manufactured by this fatty ground beef and the pork itself. So trying to eyeball this to get them evenly spread into the farthest corner. And then of course once we're satisfied, and we want it not to be right up the top because it's going to manufacture some grease, but we will be covering the top with that Heinz chili sauce that I showed you earlier. And let's see what it looks like when we're done. So now the meat and pork are spread evenly, and you can see in the middle is a little indenture that we made so that the chili sauce can be spread all over the meatloaf, but the most of it can just rest right there. So the next step is a simple step, and that's to take the chili sauce and put it on top of the meatloaf. And now we have the oven preheating to 360 degrees, and I'm going to put in a ThermoPro remote thermometer and be sure that it gets up to 160 degrees internal temperature of the meatloaf. So on comes the chili sauce. I'm going to try and get about the same amount on each one. And we'll spread it out. On both of these beautiful meatloaves. And we'll move over to this one and do the same thing. And on top, we're going to add a little cracked pepper, and they'll be ready to go into the oven. The oven is preheated, and now I'm going to preset my ThermoPro remote thermometer. Right now, as you see, the temperature is 73 degrees. This one says 72.9, but the other one, the receiver, is rounding it up. It's preset for a limit of 145 degrees, but I'm going to raise this up because we want it to be 160 degrees. That's when we'll know it's all the way done. I'm just making it 161 to be absolutely sure. So now it's 161 degrees. It will alert me when it has reached its temperature. I'm going to put the probe in to the center of the meat. And we're ready to put them in the oven. Okay, so I'm opening up the oven door, and it's definitely preheated. Taking the meatloaves. Actually, I'll put this one on this side so the meat thermometer won't have so far to reach. This on this side. And we're starting. Strategy and message. All right. I'll kill the oven. Bubbling hot. And of course you can see the grease that has risen from the fat in the hamburger and the pork. So I'm going to let them sit for about 5 minutes and then tilt them to let the grease drain out before we slice them up. With the use of the aluminum foil, it comes right out of the pan absolutely clean. Over here to the plate. And now we're going to slice it up for dinner. Perfect. So the meatloaf is for dinner tonight, and if there's anything you want me to cook, like asparagus or pasta or anything special, leave that request in the comment field below. And once again, thank you, Michael Weddle, for that wonderful cherry cutting board. I'd like a Rolls Royce next. By the way, I want to take this opportunity to point out, if you haven't already gotten a copy of my novel, The Lost Road of the Ancients, now would be a good opportunity to go online at amazon.com/books. And when you go to the search bar, you got to put in the entire title, The Lost Road of the Ancients. That's product placement.